Want to see your brand on TV? Roku Ads Manager makes it easy to launch targeted ad campaigns in minutes, track results in real time, and drive on-screen purchases with just a click of the Roku remote. Get a $500 match on your first $500 spent with code ROKU500 at ads.roku.com. That's code ROKU 500 at ads.roku.com. Terms apply.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire, who just made a rather mysterious introduction to the pod by saying it won't take 3 hours this time. Not implying that any of these pods have taken 3 hours, but Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire was with me last night at Liverpool University in a show that took 3 hours in the end. Although some of that was interval and some of that was quiz, Kieran.
Yes, it was. A lot of it was Manchester City's 115 charges. And our brilliant guests who we just listened to a game, didn't we?
Well, I would like to thank our brilliant guests, Pete Hooton of The Farm, Spirit of Shankly, who was very entertaining, Julia Bond of BBC Radio Merseyside and 5 Live, who was fantastic. I'd like to give a shout out as well to our friend Matt, who's been with us since the start of the pod and who always joins in our club members Q&A sessions out there in Dubai. And I'm always teasing him for looking so tired and grumpy. And he says, because it's fucking 3 o'clock in the morning out here. But he was back in London for the weekend and got stranded. So he thought, as you do, I'll drive up to Liverpool to see if I can get into their private gig, and he did. So it was good to see him. It was a lovely evening, Kieran. It's always nice to be in Liverpool. Very surreal for two men our age, walking through Liverpool with Pete Hooton of The Farm. Very surreal, and him pointing out the pubs that John Lennon used to drink in, and just going, we used to play football with Echo and the Bunnymen over there. And you go, Julian Cope was sick behind that tree once. I will say this for John Lennon: he spread himself about. He made sure he drank in every pub in Liverpool. Good for him. I'm not the biggest fan. Good for John Lennon, making sure every landlord's got a John Lennon story to tell about a night. I say walking around the streets of Liverpool, and limping around there.
Yes, sorry about that.
That's all right. 3 hours on a rather hard university chair was quite difficult. But as you say, the funny thing is the third time we've done it, that gig. So the first one was 2 years ago, and every time we've started with the audience baying for information about Man City, still the very first gig we did there, the first thing the audience wanted to know was when the Man City thing was going to be sorted out. And they had some rather imaginative ways they thought of punishing for Man City.
Yes, indeed.
Some of which less practical than others. We've got a packed news show, as the less nice one of the two Ronnies used to say. We've got a packed news show tonight, so we need to get through it. We're recording on Tuesday, Kieran.
We are.
Partly because we've got so many news stories, it might be Wednesday before we stop recording, to be perfectly honest. The first one, Kieran, it's coming. We've predicted this. It's the start of the end of days. It's the first pebble in the avalanche. It's the Premier League launching its own streaming platform.
It is Premier League Plus. I think if you use the word Premflix, you get a nasty letter from the Premier League lawyers, or rather from Netflix's lawyers, by all accounts. So yes, the head, the chief executive of the Premier League, Richard Masters, he was talking at the Financial Times annual Football Business Summit, which takes place over 2 days. That's just indicative as to how big a subject football finance has become. Yeah. And of course, the journalists are always looking for takeaways, always looking for something interesting. And Richard Masters said the Premier League is going to go down the streaming route. In Singapore, it's going to use it as a test market to be able to sell the Premier League rights, but also to not just have the football, to have lots of backup content as well, to effectively be able to offer some sort of 24/7 service in terms of content. Now, for people that are thinking, well, that's quite a radical step from the Premier League,
Yeah.
If you live in South Africa, if you live in Australia, the chances are that you are watching a Premier League production. They do actually have their own production house, which is based here in the UK, and they've got their own pundits. So that there has been work taking place over quite a few years. But that tends to be a sort of a service they then supply to domestic broadcasters, who then do the sale to local football fans. This is the Premier League going, skipping out the middleman, and taking on that financial risk. And lots of people say, well, therefore the Premier League's going to make an absolute mint out of this. This is absolutely fantastic news. That's what they've tried in France this year, and it's been a disaster. Partly due to the prevalence of piracy within the French market, partly due to I think that there was a lot of catch up that the French football authorities had to do, because there was a deal with a domestic broadcaster which collapsed, and that created a vacuum, and the French football authorities had to fill that. So it is messy. There's no doubt about it. Will it be a success? And if you read if you read some of the reports, it's going to destroy Sky. The Premier League will only do this domestically if they do their sums right, and they think they can make more money than they currently can do from the relationship with Sky. Sky need the Premier League. So, is this actually part of a broader issue in terms of the Premier League utilising the threat of setting up its own service to try to extract more money out of Sky when the current deal expires in 2029? Because that's what they have done on a few occasions. It's been, Facebook's going to come and do it, Amazon's going to come. Well, Amazon's come and gone. Amazon have dropped out. There's been no indication that Netflix want to go and get involved as far as Premier League rights are concerned. So there's pros and cons of this particular model. It does cut out the middleman, so therefore a slice of the pie isn't going to a wholesaler. You can have, I think, dynamic, flexible pricing if you're holding all of the cards, as the Premier League would be. Let's say it gets to 3 or 4 weeks to the end of the season, and they say, well, we've shown all the matches we're supposed to show. We're now going to start to do a few pay-per-view because we've got Liverpool playing Arsenal, or we've got Manchester United playing Chelsea, or whoever it's going to be, and those clubs are in contention. Then you can move to a pay-per-view model, and you can extract more money from punters. So people saying this is absolutely fantastic. I won't need 4 subscriptions. You might need just 1 subscription for the Premier League, but that 1 subscription might buy you 100 matches a season, and the rest go on a pay-per-view basis. And you could end up paying more. So I would always counsel caution, because Premier League club owners are not noted for being particularly generous towards fans. Why have we had representatives from Spurs and West Ham fan groups on the show? With the fact that we were talking to Peter Hooton yesterday specifically about ticket prices and the potential rise in ticket prices at Anfield, and where's that going to go? Despite the fact that they are in the Champions League, they're making well over £100 million just from TV rights in the Champions League and so on, and yet the pressure from club owners to continually increase prices is very much there. So don't expect the Premier League to pitch a pricing model which is going to have fans saying, "Oh God, these Stan Kroenke had me wrong." I always silent Stan. I always thought he was a bit of a capitalist, and actually turns out he's man of the people, £5 a month. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah. A couple of things off the back of that, Kieran. Firstly, I actually did a Premier League TV programme a couple of years back. It was a documentary about the Palace-Brighton rivalry, as it happens. They got me down. I was standing on the beach at Brighton. I don't know why they call it a beach, because I believe technically, if you look up the word beach in the dictionary, it mentions sand. But never mind. That's for another pod. That's for our that's for the price of geology that we do later on. And the comedian representing Brighton was a bit late, and the camera crew was it's proper shoot, 3 cameras, produce all sorts of stuff. And they were saying, "Come on, I know you have to say it when the cameras are rolling, but it's a strange rivalry." I go, "No, it's not a strange rivalry. They're a horrible team supported by really strange middle class people." And they raised their eyebrows, and then luckily at that moment the Brighton fan turned up on a scooter, dressed as Tom Baker, Doctor Who. And basically, I just said, "I rest my case, everybody." 2 things about this story, though, Kieran. One of which does actually bother me. The first of all is, of course, Sky are not going to be particularly happy about this. I wonder where it would leave the BBC and the Saturday night highlights. But also, I'm not entirely sure if the Premier League have thought this through, because we have discussed this before. If this is a success, it won't be that long before Man United, Liverpool, the other 4 or 5 clubs that are truly global brands say to themselves, "Well, hang on a second, why are we sharing the money out with the rest of the Premier League when we could make probably double this by streaming our own games?" That seems to me that's the logical next step.
You're absolutely right. And if you take a look at Project Big Picture, which was an attempt of a domestic coup of the game in this country, one of the proposals, as well as handing across control to the whole game to 6 clubs, was to allow clubs to sell their own rights. I think it was for something like 8 home games a season. If you control how the game operates, that 8 becomes 11, becomes 14, becomes 18, and so on. I don't think there's any traction in that at present, because you need 14 votes. You need a 2/3 majority to change the constitution of the Premier League. And I had a conversation with, I'll say, no more than a Big 6 club, and they were not happy, to put it mildly, with the opposition from Bournemouth, Brighton, Palace, who was it? Fulham, West Ham, and Leeds. I think it was something like that. They were not happy with the opposition to the introduction of the SCR rules, which are kicking in from season 26-27. Yeah. And as this person from a Big 6 club said to me, who exactly do these clubs think they are? Because if any one of them is relegated, the Premier League does not give a stuff.
Yeah.
Because as far as viewers are concerned, it makes no difference. They are interchangeable. Brighton are interchangeable with Watford. Palace are interchangeable with Stoke.
Yeah.
If Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal get relegated, then there's an issue, because the Premier League is losing one of the big drivers of viewing figures globally, not necessarily domestically, because domestically you'd simply switch from watching that club on Sky Premier League to that club on Sky EFL show. But it would have an impact upon the value of the TV rights. So that certainly has upped the ante. But I still think overall it would be very difficult to move away from the present model. And the present model is pretty democratic, in the sense that broadly half of the money is split evenly between the 20 clubs. A quarter of the money is allocated on how many times you are first picks by the TV companies, and a quarter of the money is allocated on the basis of where you finish in the table. Now, that means that even if Manchester United finished 14th last season, they appeared on television more times than 18 clubs in the Premier League, because they deliver eyeballs, and that's what the broadcasters aren't interested in football. The broadcasters are interested in what can they deliver to their customers, who happen to be the advertisers, and they deliver eyeballs. So you're absolutely right. The Premier League has to be a little bit careful here in terms of what could this result in, and we don't know what the pricing model is going to be, and we also don't know what the reaction of the Pirates are going to be, because rest assured that the Pirates will still find a way to deliver their product, and I think the Premier League, should this go ahead, and it could be that Sky say, look, we've got a fantastic relationship. That relationship's will been going on for the best part of 40 years. By the time the current deal is up for renewal, Why get a divorce when we're actually getting on pretty well?
Yeah, you say that, Kieran, but this is one of those occasions when, as you mentioned before, the Premier League really got most of the cards in this conversation. Sky, God love them, they know if they lose the Premier League, they're going to have to make a lot more Rob Beckett and Ramesh Ranganathan travelogues. So, and it's not going to cut the mustard, is it? Now, last night, Kieran, during our show at Liverpool University, which is mainly for Liverpool University students, I'm afraid to say, Kieran, that the news that Chelsea were in trouble for their record losses was not met with this degree of seriousness I hoped for young students of football finance, and indeed the two old blokes hosting the show. I'm afraid there was some hilarity at the idea of Chelsea being in trouble. But some of those people would have been Man United fans, Kieran, and we learn now that their current debt puts Chelsea's losses into the shade.
That's right. Manchester United published their second quarter results. So that is for the period the 1st of October 2025 to the 31st of December 2025. And it was very interesting how it was presented to the media. It was pretty self-congratulatory. It said, we made an operating profit of £38 million, which is true, whatever the number was. It was 30 odd million pounds, and effectively this vindicates our decision to make 400 members of staff redundant. No, it doesn't. The reason why Manchester United made a bigger profit than the previous season is down to a myriad of factors. That money saved, and let's work it out. Let's say that on average it costs £35,000 per member of staff who lost their job, because they're and I think that's quite a generous figure I'm giving there. I'm not trying to be awkward there. 400 times 35 is £14 million a year in savings. That's less than 5% of Manchester United's payroll.
Yeah.
Manchester United have individual players who are earning more than £14 million, and I've got absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. I've always said football's a talent game. Other talented people in the entertainment industry, you look at the amount of money that Tyson Fury would earn from a single fight. You look at the money that Roger Federer earns from tennis, and other people, Tom Brady. I always say these people bring lots of enjoyment. Why the resentment towards the amount of money that they pay? Because I quite like tennis. I don't go to tennis, but if I saw Roger Federer or Andy Murray, I'm showing my age here, or even the new guy Sinner and so on, I don't say, well, that was a really good game of tennis, but I just don't enjoy it anymore. These guys are earning too much money, and yet that is the narrative which is very much being pushed at us as football fans, that somehow these talented young men and women don't deserve what they earn. So for me, I think that was a misrepresentation of the reason why Manchester United made a considerably higher profit this year than the same period last year. It also ignores the fact that in the same period the previous year they sacked Eric Ten Hag, and that cost them 10 or 11 million pounds.
Yeah.
Well, Amorim's sacking wasn't included in the first quarter of the results, or first half year results. It also showed that Manchester United played 10 matches at home instead of 15 compared to the previous year, because the previous season they were in Europe and they made a bit more progress in the cups.
Yeah.
So if you've got fewer matches taking place at home, then you've got fewer running costs. You're not employing stewards. You don't need security. You don't need the match day running costs which are being incurred. And yet Manchester United's match day revenue was practically the same. So what does this mean? It means that the price that is being charged to fans, to season ticket holders, to people who are going on a day event to Manchester United, the price has risen significantly. So for Manchester United to try to position this as a self-vindicating, self-congratulatory, aren't we wonderful? We've made 400 people redundant, and it's working. I think was grossly unfair. People will say I'm political on this. I'm not political on this. I lived in Manchester for 40 years. I got married in Manchester. I was educated in Manchester. My kids were born in Manchester. I don't care what company makes 400 people redundant in Manchester. I don't like them.
Well said. And as Ali says, everything's political, Kieran. You can't divorce politics, really, especially in the world the way it is at the moment. The BBC once sent me to see a Tim Henman tennis match at Centre Court at Wimbledon, which I approached with the same degree of enthusiasm as when they sent me to see a varsity rugby match. It was astonishing. I remember reading once about early Beatles concerts when the owners of the cinemas or the theatres had to literally mop up afterwards because the girls had been so excited. It was a similar atmosphere on Centre Court of Wimbledon, except it was middle-aged women just lose. It was a cross between a reform rally and an incontinence night out. It was just incredible. Talking to the Beatles brings us back to Liverpool and a club that is making money. But I'll put this into a bit of context, Kieran, about Liverpool posting their revenue figures. I was fascinated to listen to Pete Houghton last night talk about as a youngster in Liverpool when it was Everton that were considered to be the well-off club. And he said he has memories of occasionally being at Goodison Park and there would be 40 or 50 coaches from all over the country and Ireland coming to see Everton play, which I wasn't really aware of. But it puts these figures into some context, doesn't it? And also compare Liverpool to Man United, it's a massive difference.
Yes. Again, Liverpool, they posted a press release. They haven't published their accounts. Even though the accounts were due to be published, due to be sent to Companies House by the 28th of February, and we're recording this on the 3rd of March, and there's no sign of them. I know exactly what Liverpool have done. I know how Companies House works. If you send them in at the last minute, if you send them in a particular way, it delays them going through the system for a period of days. And I don't want to sound like a cynic, but I'm going to. If you put out a press release on a Friday showing all of the bits of the finances that you want people to read, then social media picks up on it, the radio stations pick up on it, the newspapers pick up on it, and then when the accounts actually hit the Companies House website in 6 or 7 days, it's old news. So the devil in the detail, the intricacies, the more sort of forensic analysis of the finances, that doesn't pick up as much interest or traction. So this is very much a strategy of Liverpool's because it's one which they have used in the past. And I understand where they're coming from, and it's part of the game in their view. I don't think it's particularly transparent. I don't think it's particularly respectful to fans at a time when they've not announced season ticket prices yet. I'm a great believer, if you've got nothing to hide, hide nothing. And it does come across in a manner such that they could be a bit more forward. They could be a bit more proactive in this. And again, when the numbers come out, Swiss Ram will do an absolutely brilliant job, and there'll be other people. Stefan Borson, he'll be all over them on TalkSport, and there's a guy called Greg Cordell. Again, he does fantastic work as well. And I'm sure I might have a spreadsheet myself for all I know. But it's just a little bit annoying. We're not stupid. We do know how the system works, and I think it's a bit of an insult towards the fan base.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Well, the thing is, some of us, as I count myself as fan base, Kieran, and even with my inside knowledge and private tuition from the master, I can't interpret a lot of the figures. I think clubs rely on that fact. I think clubs rely on the fact, well, Maguire and Swiss Ramble can't get to all of them. We can pull the wool over 95% of their eyes, surely, because football fans just want to look at the bottom line. We discussed this last night with the students in Liverpool, and we've mentioned it on the pod before. Fans, all fans want is to see money going out on players, and the club going up the table, essentially. Now, we did say, Kieran, on our last pod, our questions pod, we talked about Chelsea in some detail and said we would carry on talking about the Chelsea record losses, but I think we actually covered that enough in that last pod. And as it turns out, those losses have been incurred under UEFA rules and have no real impact whatsoever on the Premier League. But we also mentioned that we would put a bit more meat on the bones of the West Ham losses, which I think we can do, because the headline that we mentioned the other day was West Ham saying, well, we're going to have to sell players come what may. Whether we stay up or go down, we're selling 5 or 6 players, may not be able to bring new players in, which, if they get relegated, is a really worrying sign, I think, for West Ham fans. In a project that was supposed to be the gateway to, well, the Champions League. And let's be fair, they have won a European trophy out of it. So, there's no gainsaying that. But the move to the new stadium hasn't really panned out the way West Ham fans imagined, I should think.
Yes, I mean, this was a pitch by the West Ham owners towards West Ham fans, to justify the move from Upton Park, Bowling Ground. I grew up in the 70s. I don't know anybody called it the Bowling Ground.
No, I did. No.
But it doesn't matter. It was, you're going to West Ham, and I'll be honest, you had to wear your Adidas Gazelles, because you had to be able to move quite swift, because football was slightly different in those days. But it was still it was a great stadium to visit, because you were hemmed in, and if they weren't happy, you knew about it very, very quickly. So it was a very intimidating ground, and they've moved now to the London Stadium, and that has very much been pitched. More people, more money, more success. Well, they're currently 18th in the Premier League. I know results have improved broadly over the course of the last 5 to 6 weeks, but even so, they've still got a fairly tough job if they are to survive as far as the Premier League is concerned. And when you announce a £104 million loss, you are going to be criticised, because all of these not promises, but all of these suggestions have not materialised. It's a stadium where you arrive there as close to kick-off as you can, and you leave immediately the final whistle goes. You contrast that with Spurs, and the approach which has been taken at Spurs is to have really fantastic concourses. It makes it the opportunities to wine and dine are very much there, and all of that money is being kept by the club. Spurs have monetised the stadium on non-match days as well. So yes, West Ham will say, look, we're only paying £4 million a year in rent, and you're getting a value, a £20 million a year stadium. But Spurs have tripled their commercial income because they can. They can utilise the stadium on non-match days and so on. And that will be far more of a cushion for Spurs if they are relegated than being in the London Stadium is for West Ham.
What I could never understand about going to West Ham as a Palace fan, same as going to Millwall as a Palace fan, is that I didn't look any different to them. I had roughly the same haircut. I sounded roughly the same as they did. But somehow they knew you weren't one of them. I don't know whether it's the way my nose wrinkled up as I went past the jelly deal shop. I don't know what it was. But they knew you weren't. They knew you weren't one of them. Maybe it's because of the lack of rhyming slang when I was asking. I don't know. What I also don't understand, Kieran, is I can understand West Ham revealing their losses. They've got no choice but to do that when the figures are published. But why would they also publicly say that regardless of the outcome of this season, they will be a selling club next season rather than a buying club. There's no need for them to say that. And in terms of PR, it's not gone down well with West Ham fans. So at a time when they're in the relegation battle, there's no denying that. Why would they say that things aren't necessarily going to get better even if they stay up?
Well, I think again this is part of a PR exercise. I mean, I read the director's report, and it did say that there is going to be a funding shortfall. They've borrowed money from an organisation called Rights and Media Funding. Even Uncle Terry would say, "That's going a bit far, isn't it?" Oh no, blimey, O'Reilly, you're taking your fair play to you if you want to do that, but I'm not collecting for them. So, to borrow from a third-party organisation, they've got an overdraft facility with Barclays, and they have said that should they be relegated, that they anticipate there'll be some form of funding shortfall, which has to be resolved either by borrowing more money. That will be one option. The owners putting money in. David Sullivan is not a poor man. Yeah. By any way, shape, or form. So he certainly has some resources. Is he going to come to the rescue? Is Daniel Kretinsky, who is the part owner from the Czech Republic, or Czechia, as it perhaps is now referred to, is he going to put money in? And also, is this a sort of a way of setting up? Because if they do put in a bit of money, they say, and they only sell two players, do the West Ham fans say, actually, David Sullivan, he's chipped in this time, we're better off than we... So is it a case of setting people up to believe that there is some form of Armageddon going to take place, and then it's not quite as bad as that, and therefore the reaction of the fan base is, well, things could have been worse.
Have you met any West Ham fans, Kieran?
I was on a West Ham podcast.
That's what I mean. We've interviewed some of the people from the West Ham fan advisory board. I don't know any West Ham fans who will go, "Oh, they're fair play." It's not as bad as it. And good luck to them. I'm all for that as an attitude. Good news for Arsenal women, Kieran, in terms of finances, and fair play to them, because that is a club that's put in the hard yards to get people to watch them.
Yes, Arsenal's women's matchday revenue is up 35%. It had fantastic attendances in season 24-25. And on the back of that, all of the matches in the WSL are now being played at the Emirates. Yeah. And they are averaging well over 30,000. Some of the matches far more than that. And that has manifested itself. I think the club is still dependent upon the men's club for finance and support. And here we have the paradox. Here we have the real challenge for women's football. You want to get more people to watch the game, but you don't want to give it away, because if you're giving it away in terms of the prices that you're charged, you are sending out a subliminal message to people, is that this isn't actually a very high quality product, whereas it is. Yeah. So getting that sweet spot in terms of pricing it at a fair level. Remember, Arsenal have broken the world. I think they broke the world transfer record, paying the first £1 million player and so on. So I get some sneery comments. I go, just remind me, how many clubs in League One and League Two have bought players for £1 million? How many clubs in the National League who you're saying, it's only Sunday League standard? I just don't understand it. I've got no interest in Formula One. I've never accused Sky of ramming Formula One down my throat, but the Gamonista hostilities towards women in football, I just don't get it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. That remote control is pretty useful,
Well, also, historically, people, in 20, 30 years' time, people will look back to that first £1 million women's transfer fee. Probably there'll be some really angry women going, that's the day women's football went wrong. Yeah. But we were looking back the same way we look back on Trevor Francis now. It's exactly. These are stages in the progress of a thing. It's interesting you mentioned the word product, and it's not a word we tend to use, but a friend of mine works in the ticketing department at Arsenal, and he tells me about the brilliant ways they sell the women's game. But as he points out, in the long run, the reason people turn up is because they get to see really good football. And it's like if the football wasn't of a high quality and the experience wasn't of a high quality, doesn't matter what you add on to it, they're not going to go. And the reason they go is because the football's really good. And like you say, who are these people who are so insecure about their own lives that they have to not even sign they just go online anonymously and have a go at women? It just that baffles me. And also, I know that Ali's listening, so I'm in the good books. And we mentioned the Premier League at the start, Kieran. It's terrible. I can't undermine myself all the time. I say something good and then think, I can't just leave it at that. I've got to say something that doesn't make me look like I'm a nice bloke. The Premier League obviously is a place to be, Kieran. And Coventry City and Middlesbrough are making a good job of getting there, it seems, at the moment. And I really hope they do, because I've got two mates who are Coventry fans. I can't go through another season of them being let down again. I very rarely want other teams to do well, Kieran, but just another season of them moaning. It's just the accent as well. To get a proper West Midlands accent, boys. They don't like that either. Coventry Middlesbrough just published their latest numbers, Kieran.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of Coventry, I think we're entering Fwanavan territory. In what was it, 1967 Grand National?
Fwynhaven, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean Devon Lock, the one that fell over at
Devon Lock fell, yeah.
The Queen Mother Sauce didn't even fall over a fence; it fell over a shadow.
Yes,
written by Dick Francis.
Oh,
the author of I'm told, I've never read any of them, but he's the author of a number of books about murders and sex in racing stables. He's like the male equivalent of Jilly Cooper. I've never read any Jilly Cooper either. Why would I? I'm a grown up, but. Yeah.
So Coventry are in a really strong position. They have lost a lot of money last season. Their owner, Doug, he has put in over £50 million as far as the playing budget is concerned in terms of transfer fees, and that has transformed Cov from being a club that you would expect to be in that bunch between sort of 10th and 16th that you see every season in the Championship. They're not going to go down. They ain't going to get in the playoffs. And there's quite a few. Stoke would be another example. Bristol City would be another example, sort of historically, that don't tend to be troubling the scorers at either end. Yeah. But they have invested well. They've been playing some absolutely brilliant football this season. I appreciate this isn't a football show. But they still lost £20 million, and I'm throwing this number out as if that's not too bad. That's $400,000 a week.
Yeah, I know.
The owner and Doug King's now having to that's £1.6 million a month. Yeah, and owners are having to find this amount of money. It's very similar at Borough. You look at the numbers at Borough. Middlesbrough lost £600,000 a week last season. They managed to recoup some of that from player sales, but owner Steve Gibson, again, he covers the rest, and he's in for well over £200 million, far in excess of £200 million out of his own pocket to subsidise the club. It's his club. It's the club he supports, and if you look at social media, there is an element within every fan base, and this is not a criticism of Middlesbrough fans. There's some complete Egypts amongst the Brighton fan base who say, Tony Bloom, he's done all right. He's taking the club as far as he can go.
Oh God! Yeah.
What? You go. You don't understand the first thing. Yeah. You think that everything can be solved by spending more money, and that there's a long line of compliant and ultimately stupid people who happen to be either billionaires or sovereign wealth funds who are willing to underwrite unlimited levels of losses in order to allow you for the privilege of getting into the playoffs or so on. But Borough make losses. They get okay crowds. I think Coventry had a record attendance at the stadium last weekend when they scored in injury time to win. And these are proud football clubs. We come from that era, Kevin, of seeing the likes of Middlesbrough and Coventry as regular members of the top tier of English football and so on. We remember Cov winning the FA Cup, and the likes of Ravanelli playing for Borough and so on. So these are proud football clubs, but it is indicative of just how scary the numbers are, and we have become completely inoculated to the extent of the losses which are being incurred, that we think that losing £400,000 or £500,000 a week is deemed to be an acceptable and sustainable way to run a business.
Anybody with any interest in the history of football, Kieran, should investigate what Jimmy Hill did when he took over Coventry in the early 60s. Remarkable 3 years of imaginative fundraising initiatives at the time, which we haven't got time to go into. The thing is with these figures with Coventry and Borough, Kieran, is that a lot of the Coventry and Borough fans, including my two friends who are sensible grown-up people, despite what we try to tell them, just go, well, it's fine, we're going to the Premier League, so all the financial problems are over. And so we go, really, you've not been listening to the pod, have you? But that's the assumption, though, isn't it? They think we're done, we're good, one season, and we're sorted for 10.
No, you make money in your first year, and then you lose money after there, unless you sell a couple of huge deals. It's simply a more expensive hobby in the Premier League than it is in the Championship, but it's still frightening in terms of the overall. The fact that we've been talking about West Ham losing £100 million, Chelsea losing £300 million, Liverpool, who are the Premier League champions, who I think won all of their group games in the Champions League last season. Those are incredible achievements. They made, I think that they're boasting about a post-tax profit of £8 million. You think, well, that's an awful lot of hard work to make £8 million.
Yeah. We mentioned, Kieran, when we were in Liverpool, we had one guest, Julia, who's representing Everton, one guest, Pete Hooton, who's representing Liverpool. But we always try and talk about Tranmere when we're there. And we mentioned last night the ongoing potential takeover of Tranmere, and it seems that it's a bit more ongoing than it was, but it doesn't. I didn't get the feeling, Kieran, that it was the Tranmere fans were necessarily cheerful about what's going on. But it seems on the face of it that we were confronted with good news, and that came from Julia, who'd been involved in a press conference with the club that was announcing these things.
Yes, it has been very stop-start as far as Tranmere are concerned. The current owner Mark Palios, he acknowledged that he's had the club up for sale. Lots of Tranmere fans seem to think that I'm Mark's mate. Now, I've met Mark on 3 occasions in my life. On two of those occasions, I think I was on a panel with him. Once when I went over to Tranmere, and we're both from an insolvency background, so we talk shop. He's been a guest on the podcast as well, and that's it. We don't have a hotline. We don't send each other birthday cards, and just because you know someone doesn't mean that you're going to go and follow the party line as well. Tranmere Rovers are losing money. Tranmere Rovers are not having a good season. And ultimately, that's what I think that drives emotion from fans. That I think that sometimes colours their judgment. There's no doubt that what Mark Palios has been trying to do, and if you listen to him, he's very adamant about this, is to try to broaden the revenue base for the club, because you are living in the shadow of Liverpool and Everton, and it is that much harder to attract matchday attendances. It is that much harder to generate sponsorship and commercial income, and therefore by having a broader range of activities at the club, that is one way of addressing that, and I think that's been pretty successful as well. But the parties that have been in contact with Tranmere Rovers as far as the deal is concerned, last year it was an American consortium, including the danger with the consortium. It's like a bunch of blokes who go out on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
And not all of them get home on time. How often have you been out and you go, There's 9 of us when we started. Where's Dave?
No,
And
Dicky. It's
Dicky,
always
okay.
Dicky. Yeah.
And Dicky has disappeared, and he's found in a skip, half a mile away.
Yeah.
And so on. Well, this is the danger with a consortium, especially if it's a consortium of American investors, and I'm not being Machiavellian or anti-American when I say this, who have different levels of enthusiasm for football. Yet we've all done things which that seemed like a good idea at the time. So you could be an American investor and you've seen the success at Wrexham and you've watched Ted Lasso and you go, yeah, soccer is great, soccer, and then when it crystallises that there's 8 or 9 of us and each of us has to go and stump up $5 million, you go, actually, when I said I was interested, that's not the same as being committed. And I think the original consortium contained a guy who was one of Donald Trump's lawyers. I think he's been quite busy. And there was some sort of music guy. Is it Rocky ASAP?
Yeah.
And I think his enthusiasm, and there's no reason why you can't have people from American music. Snoop Dogg and Swansea, what a guy! What a guy is the Snoopster. That's how to do it. But sometimes people get cold feet. They go lukewarm, and this has caused that particular deal to collapse. I think what Julia was hinting at, and she put this out on social media, that it looks as if there is another party involved. I got the impression that could be more than one person, and that has both the pros and cons that all consortium bring. It does spread the cost, it does spread the financial commitment between a greater number of people. But at the same time, it's more people that have to follow and satisfy the EFL owners and directors test. There's more people means more people who could drop out.
But apparently, I mean, this is clearly a serious bid because it has reached the owners and directors test stage. We understand, isn't it? They're undergoing that test at the moment.
Yes. I mean that was for people that were last night. That was the comments that Julia made, and it could be that over the course of the next few days, further progress will be made, and a formal announcement will then take place.
I have created the most advanced AI soldier.
The wait is over. Tron Aries, now streaming on Disney+.
We are looking for something you've discovered. And some of us will stop at nothing to get it.
Ready?
The countdown is complete.
There's no going back.
Our directive is clear.
Hang on!
Tron Aries, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Two things. Dickie's nickname is actually "Where's Dickie?" That's his official. That's his official, which gives an indication. When we left the Wembley for the semi-final after we beat Villa, the cries of "Where's Dickie?" went up. The answer turned out to be Leighton Buzzard.
What?
I know. He still somehow managed to get back to his scoring before several others, but never mind. And also, talking of which, birthdays, Kieran, happy birthday to you, by the way, this week, old chap. Very happy birthday from us all. Would you like to share with the world what the Baroness gave you for your...
She made me a cheese and Marmite loaf.
Of course she did, because you're Brighton fans. What else?
Absolutely.
Nothing says Sussex more than a cheese and Marmite. That sounds nice.
Oh, it was absolutely heavenly, and I'd had quite a tough week. I say at work. I've got 12 jobs, as everybody probably now realises. It had been quite a tough week. I'd finished teaching at 5 o'clock on Friday in Liverpool. I got home. It was 10:30 at night. Baroness, she's looking after our granddaughters for the weekend. So coming home to an empty house, and I walk in, and it's the smell of smoked Marmite and cheese And I love my wife unreservedly, but I've never loved her more than when that hit my nostrils, I can assure you.
I take it Finlay was away then as well, was he?
Well, no, he was in the house, but he likes Marmite more than I do. So we have a bit of a scrap, but she did put it in a high enough place because he can be a bit of a scamp when it comes to stealing food.
He's all right with smoked Marmite, is he? Smoked Marmite?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's one step too far, Kieran. Again, that's for another. After we've done the geology pod, we'll do the Marmite pod. Now we've spoken rather not casually, Kieran, in recent weeks about Sheffield Wednesday because in fact we've been taking it very seriously. And we had a special edition of the pod last week when the takeover collapsed. But where perhaps, and this is my fault, where we've been casual is that you tell me about the number of creditors that may lose out depending on who takes over, and I assume we're talking about 3, 4, 5 people here, but it's been revealed this week just how many people, Kieran, and how many groups could miss out with the Sheffield Wednesday situation. And it's an astonishing number.
Yeah, there's about 150, 160, I think,
150
in total. And these are, in the main, local suppliers. It could be the window cleaner.
Yeah.
It could be the person that supplies the pies. It could be the person that retunes the mowers, or whatever they do. Sharpens the mowers. And they have supplied Dejon Chancery's Sheffield Wednesday. And that's, people say, I've got an issue with Sheffield Wednesday. No, I've got an issue with Dejon Chancery.
Yeah.
And there is a huge difference between the two. And I think where waters often get muddied is that, as football fans, we do have that unusual tribal affection for our club, and therefore, if you say anything against my club, you are saying something against me.
Yeah.
Separate club owners from football club. I think it's really important to do that. So Dejon Chancery has run up significant debts. Begbie's the receivers, the administrators. They were due to have published their interim report on the progress of the administration by the 26th of February. That was after putting in a delaying document, which we covered at the start of January.
Yeah.
Well, the 26th of February came and gone. 27th of February, I think it was. We're now we're recording this on the 3rd of March. And fair play. I've spoken about this on more than one occasion. There is a fantastic group of local journalists in Sheffield, in Derby, in Wigan, who have trained to be sports journalists and now have had, through no choice, but they've become forensic investigative journalists. And one of these guys, Alex Miller at the Sheffield Star, the document, which is supposed to be in the public domain, has been sent out to creditors, or some creditors, as far as we're aware, and he's managed to get hold of a copy. Why is it not Why is it not being published on time on the 26th of February? Why are Begbie's going through this particular route? And it irritates me slightly because you've got one of the administrators, Paul Stanley, whose favourite person in the world is checks notes Paul Stanley. He's the guy that said, I'm so good when I was the administrator of Wigan that they should go and build a statue of me and stick it outside the building. So we're dealing with vainglorious individuals here. And they've not published the information on time, but it looks like they've clocked up £2.2 million of fees. You add on their expenses, it's going to be pretty close to £4 million. The deal of their preferred bidder has collapsed, and I know they all say, well, it was the highest bid, but the fact that I was aware that there were huge doubts over the ability of the board group to put that funding together. And at the end of the day, yes, I am connected to the sort of this football finance thing. At the end of the day, I'm just a teacher, and if I can find these things out and I can be contacted by people, why were they still going through with what this appears to be a bit of a charade? They will say, and I understand from their point of view, look, the board group put in £4 million and they lost this money. the original sort of outing of the board group as the preferred bidder, there was something going around on a WhatsApp group, and one of the people on the WhatsApp group may or may not have been one of the people at Begbie's. This is if true, this is ridiculously unprofessional behaviour, and it's annoying and it's irritating. And if they say, well, ultimately it's our business, what I suggest they do, don't put out a document that they're going to delay the report until the 27th of February, and then it doesn't come out to the 3rd of March. Now, to be fair to Alex Miller, the Sheffield Star journalist, fantastic piece of work. He managed to get hold of a copy. But we're now relying on leaked documents being put into mainstream media as a means of trying to make an assessment as to where the club is going forwards. So, yes, lots of creditors are impacted, one of which is Dejan Chansiri. Somebody said, and it might have been you, actually, was it you who said this last night? Why can't we organise the rules of the EFL that you get the 15-point penalty, but you don't have to, but as part of the licence for when you buy a football club is that you only get your payment as an owner after all of the other unsecured creditors have been paid their 25 pence in the pound. And if there's then anything left over, you'll get a penny. And this would have allowed a lower bid to have been put in for Sheffield Wednesday in the first place.
That's way too sensible for me. I think that was one of your students must have suggested that. What I find... we still have a couple of stories to go, Kieran, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. But 150, my mind was racing. That means there's like 150 people at least supplying goods and services to Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. And I got to sort of 12 or 13 before I ran out of people that might be doing stuff for it. Just shows you what a vast logistical exercise running a football club actually is. And meanwhile, the failed bidder for Sheffield Wednesday, James Boor, does actually own a club in Britain, and they've submitted their accounts now as well.
Yes, he owns Dunfermline. Their results were not sparkling, shall we say, but it makes you wonder, why is he spreading himself so thinly? He's Dunfermline is a strange club. For somebody who has made their fortune through being a professional gambler, again, sort of my understanding, I think that particular pudding, bit too much egg in. You know what I mean? In terms of the winnings, you look at the other businesses with which he's concerned, and at the end of the day, it's. He's a millionaire, a multi-millionaire, because he has put in, his consortium has put in £4 million into this particular deal. But it does suggest that something never felt right. And I think we gently tried to mention the words Chris Kirchner when we've been talking about Sheffield Wednesday, because a few of us had been sort of told we're not convinced he's got the wherewithal, and he's effectively trying to get, again, it's a bit like at the end of when you've all had a meal, or you would be in a hotel, or something's happened, you say, right, we need to go and pay the hotel 500 quid, let's all pony up 50 quid each, and then somebody says, oh, I've only got 20, or somebody says, oh, can I pay you tomorrow? Or it's one of those type of affairs, and it just never felt quite right.
We haven't mentioned Southend for a long time, Kieran, which is very good news, considering how much time we used to spend on Southend United. But there's a rather odd story this week about their relationship with their sponsor, or their kit manufacturer. I beg your pardon. Yes,
this is Macron. Macron are a solid kit manufacturer. They're not glamorous, but you don't have. I think, again, as football fans, I think we've been slightly seduced. The number of times I've heard people say, "Oh God, I wish our kit was made by Adidas in a factory in Vietnam," as opposed to Macron, their factory in Vietnam, that's not as good. Hold on, and we've got our secret kit manufacturer as well, who tells us, they're broadly made in the same place, and they cost £10 to £12 to make. So ultimately you get what you pay for. And I'm wearing a shirt here, which
lovely.
It's a Roma shirt, which I like very much. Yes, it's made by Adidas. Yes, I've got my patches on it, and so on and so forth. But if I'm honest, the material is a little bit scratchy, isn't it? As always tends to be the case.
I wondered why.
They've terminated their partnership with Macron.
You've been fidgeting, Kieran. I wondered why that was.
That's right.
I've been fidgeting because of a terrible back injury, and you've been fidgeting because of a nylon shirt. It's not nylon, I know. Before Adidas starts sending their lawyers on us, it's not nylon, it's silk.
So yes, Southend want to, I think, broaden the range of products that they sell. I think they want to have a bit more control, and clearly that relationship with Macron wasn't working. Certainly, one of the things that I discovered through doing some work with and in conversation with kit manufacturers is that they very much have a pecking order as far as their customers are concerned. So if you are working, if you're being supplied by Nike, then they will say, well, we've got Liverpool, we've got Chelsea, we've got Spurs. Those are our A-listers. And if they want an extra 5,000 shirts, they'll get them within 48 hours. If you're Brighton in the Premier League and you want some more shirts, we'll give you 2 deliveries a year. And if you're Southend, you might get 1 delivery a year, and we're not going to go and put on another on a production for you because, frankly, we don't need your business that much, and so on. So I think there is a feeling amongst quite a few football clubs that they're not necessarily getting great service. And I'm not saying this on in the case of Southend and Macron, but certainly I'm aware of some clubs who are unhappy with the level of service that they get from the kit manufacturers because they're not seen as being a big fish in the pie.
Mm. Our penultimate story, Kieran, has some very interesting legal news coming out of Canada.
Yes. When you go to a football match, what do you go to see? I go to see 2 teams. Now, we now live in the world of celebrity. We now live in the world in which individual players, to a certain extent, cover or have greater appeal than perhaps the other 10 players put together. And this would appear to be the case as far as the MLS is concerned and the Supreme Court of British Columbia. Because there was a match between Vancouver Whitecaps and I presume it was Inter Miami, and the intention of many fans who had paid premium prices for tickets, they said, "Oh, we're going to see Lionel Messi."
Yeah.
And when he didn't play, they said, "Well, we paid a premium price, and we were charged, say, a grade A price because it was into Miami, and he didn't play, so therefore we want our money back." And it looks as if the court has ruled in favour of the fans who had a class action lawsuit, and this is cost. I don't know exactly how much it's cost, but it's cost Vancouver Whitecaps money. But I think this raises a much broader issue. He's not John Merrick. he's Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
And if you want to go and see Vancouver Whitecaps play into Miami, then that's what you're going to say. Would you be disappointed that he wasn't playing? Yeah, but if that's your attitude towards football, I'm not being rude. You're not a football fan.
Yeah, I think the problem is, Kieran, and this we only got this story today, so we need to maybe look into it in a bit more detail. But it seems the story was that Vancouver Whitecaps kind of promoted it as come and see Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
Basically, I think because obviously if you're going to a football match, it might be different if you're an overseas fan who loves Eberechi Eze coming to see an Arsenal game and he doesn't play. Just the lighting you've got there now, Kieran. The sun has been going down. You look like a Caravaggio portrait. It's just incredible. So we will keep an eye on that story because it does have some ramifications for fans going ahead, basically. If fans spend a lot of money on a ticket and they don't get the players they think they're going to get, then there will be lawyers out there willing to chase that particular ambulance, I'm sure. Our last story isn't a story as such, Kieran. It's a statement, which I think I'll leave you to read it out. It's a statement from the chairman of Chesterfield, Ashley Kirk. I don't think we need to discuss it anymore because it basically sums up. This could be the motto that we put on our football shirts when we finally get them.
That's right. Yes, and Chesterfield, I think, are, in my view, one of the most transparent clubs around.
Yeah.
And I do like their model, and I do like the information that they put out. And they've also volunteered themselves to the independent football regulator in terms of, we think we think we are a well-run club. Come and look at us.
Oh, wow.
We think we're an exemplar in terms of governance and so on.
Wow.
But the chairman, Ashley Kirk, has said, and I couldn't put this more succinctly myself, running a football club is not a cheap business, nor is it a profitable business. And he's absolutely nailed it. Which then begs the question, why on earth get involved owning a football club?
It's incredible. When we talk about Steve Gibson at Middlesbrough, my God, the amount of money that man has put into that club over the years is just astonishing. Exemplar, that's a bloody... I was looking for that word last night. When we were talking, you said something and I was going to say something really clever, and the word exemplar went right out of my... I just ended up with Knights Templar, and that wasn't right. Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club, where you'll get ad-free listening, access to our full back catalogue, bonus episodes, Zoom quiz invites, and more. Just go to priceoffootball.com and click on Join the Club to sign up today. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, on our regular Tuesday Questions Pod, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and find us on YouTube. And if you want to buy one of our books or a T-shirt, go back to that same website, priceoffootball.com. We're at the start of a full Premier League week, Kieran, full midweek, before we both have the weekend off because it's the FA Cup. So we'll be back the next Tuesday with a Questions Pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, as we're 1 hour and 5 minutes into the show already,
I'll say, keep it short.
Yeah, thanks very much for all your support, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.